It's time for Voice of Indie. Your hosts today are Beam Weeks, author, producer, and marketing monster for independent multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group, and Stephen Gees, author, producer, composer, and publisher for Fresh Ink Group.
Happy Hump Day, everybody. It is time for another episode of the Voice of Indie podcast. This is episode number 164, and we've been doing this show for 3 years now. Wow. I am your host, Beam Weeks, and with me is Stephen Gees. Mr. Stephen, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Was I there for most of that 3 years?
Yes, you were. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to put this out here for everybody that's listening. The next 2 weeks are going to be reruns. We are not going to be live for the next 2 weeks, so keep that in mind. I'll bring again something about this episode, especially when Dr. Helen calls in, because if she doesn't hear it, she's going to try to call in next week, and I'm going to get emails saying, "Where are you guys at?"
Yep. Yeah, we like Dr. Helen.
Yes, we do. She's a faithful listener.
Yeah, we're taking a couple of weeks off. We're going to do a little bit of running around and stuff, and it's like this weekend I'm taking Braden and Zane to go see a Linkin Park tribute band in Atlanta, and then by Wednesday I'm heading north. So I can see some concerts up there. Now, who are we going to see in Detroit, Beam?
We are going to see the one and only Mr. Peter Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Yeah, Peter's been around for a long time. He's got some great material. Kind of interested to see if he's going to, dip into the old Genesis stuff or just going to solo stuff. But either way, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, he won't be dipping into the Genesis. He's got way too much material of his own. But, yeah, I used to go see him when he sang with Genesis back in 1972, 73, 74, more than half a century ago. When I was a teenager, I was once a teenager. Yes, it's hard to believe. But, yeah, we're really looking forward to that. Now, we've got some real exciting news here. As you all know, we produce audiobooks, and part of our productions are young adult audiobooks, like for Ellie Collins and Cheryl Carpinello. And one of our favorite narrators for young adult audiobooks is voice actor and movie star Ethan Drew. Now, Ethan Drew has been booking some great gigs. He runs Drew Comedy TV. He's a TikTok influencer. He's all over YouTube. He's got literally millions of followers. And he is now starring in a major motion picture that is in a theater near you right now. I guarantee you it's in a theater near you. Look it up. It's called Camp Hideout. It stars Ethan Drew, and it also stars Christopher Lloyd. Who's Christopher Lloyd, Beam?
Christopher Lloyd was the Reverend Jim Ignatowski from Taxi, but he was also Doc Brown from Back to the Future and a bunch of other stuff. He was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Guy's been around forever. He's a great character actor.
Yeah, and Corbin Bleu, he used to be a Disney actor way back in the day and is now an adult film star. He's in it too, and Amanda Layton, and there's a whole bunch of good people. If you get our newsletter, make sure you click on the trailer and check out that trailer today, or just head down the street to your local theater and check out Camp Hideout starring Ethan Drew, and then check out some of the audiobooks we've produced using Ethan Drew in his voice. So, yeah, we're proud of Ethan. Camp Hideout. He really booked a good one this time.
Yeah, and speaking of Ethan and audiobooks, we're currently hard at work on Cheryl Carpinello's Young Knights. Now, this audiobook, Ethan's job is done, so there's no worrying about the whole strike and all that stuff that's going on with the writers and whatnot. He finished his. I'm in the process of editing those files. But when I edit these files, I send them to the author, and she okays them, or she wants him to reread something, or he flubbed a line. I got a couple of flubbed lines. I got to get back with Ethan and say, we need you to reread these 2 lines here, blah, blah, blah. That's the behind-the-scenes business of working on an audiobook. And then we put the special effects and all that. But when the author clears these chapters, then we move on to the next one, and we get these things all put up there, and hopefully this will be done before too long, and everybody can have a listen and go out there and buy it. And when Ethan's collecting awards and whatnot for his Camp Hideout and whatever comes out after that, we can say, we knew this guy way back when. So,
oh, yeah.
That's cool.
Now, you mentioned Cheryl Carpinello's Young Knights series. The actual audiobook you're working on is The King's Ransom. So watch for that title, people. The King's Ransom, Cheryl Carpinello audiobook featuring the voice acting of Ethan Drew. We've also got some good news. Robert G. Williscroft has a short story called First Contact in the Expanding Universe, Volume 9. You science fiction fans are very familiar with the Expanding Universe, and that's quite an accomplishment to get into there with a short story like that. So, Robert G. Williscroft's First Contact in the Expanding Universe, Volume 9. Get out there and get your copy now.
Yeah.
What about short stories, Beam?
Short stories, yes. I'm throwing a text to my co-host in the middle of that. That's behind-the-scenes stuff, too. Short stories. We've got an anthology that we're putting together. This is our second anthology. Actually, we've got two of them. One's the short story anthology, and one is a personal essays, short memoir anthology. And what we need right now for the short stories anthology, we need about 20 more short stories. If you're an author and you've got some short stories lying about, or you've got ideas for short stories, get them written and get them to us. Info at Fresh Ink Group or contact at Fresh Ink Group, and we will. You
got to have a .com on those, Beam.
Yeah, .com, freshinkgroup.com.
Info at freshinkgroup.com.
Yeah. So most people know that, but for those of you who don't, then I mean, my mom still, when she's doing one of those URLs, www. We don't have to say that anymore.
No.
But we need about 20 more short stories. We've got, I think, counted 15 of them right now. So, and there's some good ones too. So send us your best, and we will pop that in there. And it's just a fun thing. It gets it out there, and people come to find out who you are. And if you got a novel out there and they liked your short story, they're going to go and buy your novel. So that's how that works.
All right. We also want to congratulate Jerry Pate, retired U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander, who commanded Chief of the Boat, nuclear submarine, and wrote 60 chapters of memoir about life above and below the sea as a naval commander. And it's just chock full of all kinds of anecdotes, stories, take your breath kinds of things, a lot of humor, and it's very popular. It's been out for a year now. So congratulations, Jerry. And to celebrate the anniversary, Jerry sent emails to a bunch of the groups he belongs to and whatnot, and reminded people it's now been a year. And he saw a sales surge. He jumped up into the teens and 20s in the Amazon listings. So congratulations, Jerry. Submariner, out for a year and still a bestseller.
All right. Listeners, if you want to be a part of tonight's show, it's real easy for you to do that. If you got a question or a comment, there's two ways you can do it. You can go on X and use the hashtag Fresh Ink Group, or you can call us. And here's a little more on that.
Call 516-453-9902 right now with your questions or comments for tonight's guest. Or post a note on Twitter with hashtag Fresh Ink Group in the body of the tweet, and we'll read it on air. That's 516-453-9902 or hashtag Fresh Ink Group on Twitter.
Now keep in mind, hashtag Fresh Ink Group, not at Fresh Ink Group. Don't put the handle, because we don't use the Fresh Ink Group Twitter account for this show. We use the Voice of Indie Twitter account. So hashtag Fresh Ink Group will let us know that. That's happened a few times where people have used the at Fresh Ink Group, and we don't see the comment during the show. And that's a shame, because it's usually a good comment or a question, and we don't see it until, days later. So make sure you remember that. Hashtag Fresh Ink Group, all one word. I Won't Be Your Scapegoat. That is out now by David Carroll. This is a fantastically funny book of bloopers and blunders and misspellings and terrible choice of wording for signs and internet posts and things like that. I Won't Be Your Scapegoat by David Carroll. So keep your eyes out for that. Go grab a copy.
Yeah, and we just finished making the video for that. You're going to hear the audio commercial for it. It'll be our first commercial tonight, but once we play that, you're going to want to get over there and check out that video. You can see some examples of some of these humorous things in the video as well over on YouTube in the Fresh Ink Group channel, and while you're there, please subscribe, because we love it when you do that.
Yeah. So speaking about subscribing, are you subscribed to our newsletter? No? What is wrong with you? here's how you can remedy that.
Stay on top of these podcasts and all things Fresh Ink Group with our weekly digital newsletter, new releases, videos, stories, excerpts, interviews, and more. Sign up now on the homepage of FreshInkGroup.com and be the one who knows what's what.
What?
All right, we got another new book out. It's only been out for a couple of weeks now. We're celebrating college football season with Celebrate 98 by Off the Hook sports writer Dave Hooker. He's a Tennessee Vols specialist in his sports writing, knows everything there is about the Vols, and this book is his celebration of the 25th anniversary of the 1998 Tennessee Vols championship season. That's when Al Wilson took over from Peyton Manning and took them farther than Peyton Manning managed to go. It's a great book. It's full of pictures, stories, anecdotes, behind the scenes, some where are they now. It's just a fun book, and college football fans are going to love it. Tennessee Vols fans are definitely going to eat it up. It's been out for a couple of weeks now. You can get an autographed copy if you go over to offthehooksports.com. And as soon as he got that up and started taking orders, he got more than 150 orders in the first 24 hours. So that's looking like that book might be a hit as well. Celebrate 98 by Dave Hooker.
Woohoo! All right. Now, also out, Star Child Book 1, Slingshot by Robert G. Williscroft. That is out now. Get over to wherever it is that you buy your books and grab a copy and enjoy. Robert is an extremely talented and gifted writer. So,
all right.
Star Child, Slingshot.
So before we introduce tonight's guest, which we're very eager to talk to, he's one of our favorite writers. We've had him on before, and we're looking forward to talking to him again tonight. Let's look at the top 25 print bestsellers from Fresh Ink Group. At the 25 slot, Volunteer Bama Dog by David Carroll. See that? His I Won't Be Your Scapegoat that we just put out is starting to goose some sales of his other books as well. Volunteer Bama Dog's a fun book, too. And he's got a lot of what you call Southernisms in there, too, phrases that people in the South like to say. And a little tongue-in-cheek, he has some fun with those. Above that, Robert G. Williscroft's Operation Ivy Bells, a Mac McDowell mission. It's the first book in the 4-book series, with a 5th one coming one of these days. Submarine Cold War thrillers. Mac McDowell's a submarine commander. And those are very popular books. We recommend you get in there and check them out. Next up, The ABCs of Surviving Cancer, Alive, Beautiful, and Courageous by Tammy Trover. That's a collection of poems featuring Cornelius, the cancer-curing crocodile, and it's aimed at children and families to understand the whole cancer process, treatment, losing the hair, all the different things that are involved. And it's not just for people going through it, it's also for, like, classmates, who are wondering, why is Jimmy's losing his hair or whatever. That's a great book. We're proud to see that on the list after, 4 or 5 years that thing's been out now, and it's becoming a bestseller again. Yeah. Then above that, we've got Lanny Richmond's Warning, No One is Scared of Hell Until They Get There. I Have Been There. And then we've got Sassy Uncovers Peter Allen's Secret. That's the second book in the Sassy series. It's illustrated chapter books for children about the AME Church. Above that, we've got 3 in a row, How to Start and Run Your Own Food Truck Business. The next one is Tennessee by A.K. Wingler. The next one is Florida by A.K. Wingler. And then the next one is Back to Tennessee again. So the hardcover's in that mix as well. Hardcover's doing very well. Anybody interested in starting a food truck business, she's got 3 states out so far. You don't even need to have it for your own state because there's just tons of information in there about what it takes to start and actually run a food truck business, even recommended floor plans and all that stuff.
Yeah, she spent years running her own food truck business, so she knows.
She knows what she's doing, and she's got the inside tips for how to do it successfully. Now, we've got the next 3 slots. 2 of them are Celebrate 98, the untold stories behind the Tennessee football Vols 1998 National Championship by Dave Hooker. That's the paperback and the hardcover are on the bestseller list right now. And in between them, Mark Herndon, The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip. He was the drummer for the super country group Alabama for almost 3 decades. We published his memoir in 2016. Yes, 7 years ago, more than 7 years ago. And it is still riding our bestseller lists after all these years. Ooh, The Dayang, Book 1 of the Dayang Trilogy by M.C. Howard, the hardcover edition. And people think people don't buy novels in hardcover. Well, I'm looking at some right now. And I got a feeling we're going to see the soft cover when we get up close to the top of the list. Next up, Robert McKenzie's The Chair, Volume 3. That's the third in the Chair series. Fourth is coming out 1st of November. The fifth, we're looking at the spring of 2024. And Robert's actually working on another novel right now that he's going to put out 2 versions, one in English, one in French, and it's a story of 2 horses that travel across the country. I can't wait to read that. How to Teach Driving. I don't know if they talk or not. We're going to have to talk to Robert to find out. Next is How to Teach Driving, Behind the Wheel, Lesson by Lesson, the Instructor's Edition by Kenneth Lindquist. This is for people who want to become certified instructors in whatever state they operate in. Next up, retired journalist Larry Jorgensen's Shipwrecked and Rescued, The City of Bangor. And then Dr. Helen Burrell, American Agony, The Opioid War Against Patients in Pain. That book just keeps surging. That's been out for a couple of years now. It's a look at the politics behind opioid enforcement, what's going on with locking doctors up and what the DEA is up to. And she also gets a little bit snarky and makes fun of some of these people as well. So it's a fun book. Daddy Yo-Yo and the Legendary Marble Tournament by Janice D. Toney. Hardcover edition, Beam. We're looking at a hardcover edition way up on the bestseller list right here. She has been going bonkers out there doing events and selling out her books as fast as we can keep ordering them and shipping them to her. She hooked up a deal today for like 600 books through some car dealer association or something. I can't keep up with this woman, but she's going to be sending us some pictures from a couple of her events. So next week's newsletter, we're going to show some of the kind of stuff that she's out there doing, and it's selling books for her, so more power to her. Next up, How to Paint an American, the novel by Andrew McGregor. And then above that, the paperback edition of that same Operation Ivy Bells, a Mac McDowell mission by Robert G. Willinscroft that we talked about earlier. All right, now we're getting up into the top 6. At number 6, I Won't Be Your Scapegoat, David Carroll's Homemade Social Media Blunders, hardcover edition. That high on the list. Next, at the number 5 slot, Mark Herndon, The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip, hardcover edition. Next, Submariner, 30 Years of Hijinks and Keeping the Fleet Afloat by retired U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander Jerry Pate. It's been out for a year now, and right now it's in the number 4 slot on our print bestseller list. Congratulations, Jerry. Now, top 3. Let's look at the paperback edition of the Dayang, book 1 of the Dayang trilogy by M.C. Howard. That's it's got UFO and all kinds of cool stuff in there. It's kind of a sci-fi suspense thriller with a lot of personal story thrown in as well. Now, that gets us to our top 2. Number 2, David Carroll, I Won't Be Your Scapegoat, the paperback edition. So that one is surging. That gets our silver star this week. And in the gold star position, number 1, 5 weeks in a row, There Must Be Something in the Water, Anthology of the Fourth Generation, Descendants of Green Pond After the Emancipation by Abigail Hugh Guinea. Congratulations, Abigail.
Yeah, congratulations, Abigail. All right. Listeners, if you've missed an episode of this show or you just want to revisit your favorite one, we've got an archive, and here's how you can find these episodes.
Find your favorite show in the Voice of Indie archive on YouTube at Fresh Ink Group, StephenGees.com, BeamWeeks.com, FreshInkGroup.com, and on Spotify. And now, you can listen on iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and tune in. Just search The Voice of Indie, all one word.
I'm David Carroll, and I'm proud of my recent books, Chattanooga Radio and Television, Volunteer Bama Dog, and Hello Chattanooga, famous people who have visited the Tennessee Valley. Like many folks, I spend too much time on social media, but I put that time to good use. For years, I've been collecting social media misspellings, misinterpretations, and other mishaps, from tweets, text messages, even the signs you see at stores and on the highways. I've collected the funniest foul-ups in my latest book, I Won't Be Your Scapegoat, David Carroll's homemade social media blunders. I top them off with my own snarky comments, and they're illustrated by a talented artist, my friend Mike Salter. There are a lot of laugh-out-loud moments in the book, more than 400 of them. We all make mistakes, and sure, you can blame it on spell check, but maybe, just maybe, we didn't pay enough attention in English class. Either way, this book will bring a smile to your face or to the face of someone you love. We can all agree what the world needs now is laughter, and lots of it. I Won't Be Your Scapegoat, proudly published by Fresh Ink Group in softcover, jacketed hardcover, and all ebook formats.
All right. Now, before I read the bio here and introduce tonight's guest, this is kind of a time-sensitive tweet. Going back to Peter Gabriel, Verwayne Greenhoe tweeted out, he said, "I love Peter Gabriel. Salisbury Hill is my favorite song." So he also says, "I'm here. We finally have steady electricity and almost steady internet. I still have 20-some down trees in my backyard, but the roof is fixed, and we are almost back to normal, or as normal as the wife and I can get." Well, I'm glad to hear that, Verwayne. Now, tonight's guest, multi-award-winning author Michael Scott Clifton is an avid gardener, reader, and movie junkie. His books contain facets of all the genres he enjoys: action, adventure, magic, fantasy, and romance. His fantasy novel, The Janus Witch, The Open Portal, Book 1 in the Conquest of the Veil series, and Escape from Wheel, Book 2. All received 5-star reviews from the prestigious Reader's Favorite Book Reviews. The Open Portal has also been honored with a Feathered Quill Book Finalist Award. In addition, Edison Jones and the Anti-Grav Elevator earned a 2021 Feathered Quill Book Award, bronze medal, in the Teen Readers category. Fantastic. 2 of his short stories have won gold medals, with Edges of Gray winning the Texas Authors Contest, and The End Game winning the Northeast Texas Writers Organization's contest. Professional credits include articles published in the Texas Study of Secondary Education. Do you think he's from Texas?
I think.
A longtime public educator, Michael lives in Mount Pleasant, Texas, with his wife, Melanie. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show, Michael. We are glad to have you back.
Well, thank
Michael.
you. It's good to be back.
All right.
Now, Michael, since we've had you on before, we're not going to repeat a lot of the same questions, and we're kind of picking up some clues here that maybe you're from Texas. What kind of work have you done down there? You had a day job. You spent 21 years doing something fun.
Well, I was 38 years in public education. 21 years I was a science teacher and a coach. In the last 17 years, I was an administrator. Ended my career as a junior high principal, and since I've retired, I have gone from the frying pan into the fire, because now I'm on the school board of the school district I used to teach at.
Wow.
What does that involve? I mean, you just go to monthly meetings, or is it a lot of work, or what?
Well, as school board members, we're trustees of the school, and for the most part, it's a job. It's more a job of basically the superintendent is the person who answers to us. We don't micromanage. That's not something school boards do. They don't teach the classes. They don't clean the hallways. They don't supply the textbooks. But they're a reflection, in a nutshell, they're a reflection of the communities in which they serve. So I serve with 6 other school board members. There's 7-member board team, and I serve as the vice president of the school board. And we do meet monthly. Sometimes we have to meet more than that if something comes along. But basically, we try to make sure that we deliver a quality education. We hire great teachers, and we hire great administrators, and hopefully have a positive impact on our community, and that the students that graduate from our school have a well-rounded education and will be productive citizens. And oh, by the way, my favorite Peter Gabriel song is Sledgehammer.
Oh.
Sledgehammer, yeah. Okay, wow. So for the record, mine is Games Without Frontiers.
Yeah, and I've got a whole bunch of them, but the Washing of the Water is the one that really, really moves me. It's a metaphor, and man, that's a great song. But I've also seen the playlist for this upcoming concert too, and he opens with Washing of the Water. So yeah.
Hey. All right. Now, Michael, when you're not schoolboarding or writing your next novel, how do you like to spend your time? Do you have any hobbies? What do you do to relax?
Well, I think y'all would agree with me that every author began as an avid reader, and I still read a lot. And I don't necessarily. I have to do a lot of reading, and I have to do a lot of training in my school board position, which requires, a lot of it's online stuff. You have to, go through trainings that way. So I try to restrict my reading to the same kind of reading that I liked when I was growing up, which is basically fiction. There's a lot of different reasons why people read. Some read for enlightenment, some read for learning. I read for escape and relax, and I try to write books that reflect that as well. So, and I also like to garden. Always have a large vegetable garden. I grow flowers and things like that. It's kind of ironic because I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, before moving to Texas, and it's a desert. And about all that grows out there is scrub grasses and cactus. So I don't know if that's a boomerang effect from growing up in the desert or not, but I like to grow things, and that's how I go to movies. Pretty much when you read my biography there, it's pretty much a reflection of my life. I like to garden. I like to read. I like to go to movies. I used to be a basketball coach, so go to a lot of basketball games. I've been to the boys state basketball tournaments here in Texas every year since '89. The only year that I missed was the COVID year, 2020. Got to see a lot of future and now even retired professional basketball players. Shaquille O'Neal, for example.
I've heard of him.
Yeah.
Yep. He actually got in line the first year to go. He actually got in line. His school bus team got off a bus, and there was this little buffet line, kind of a Western sizzling buffet, and he actually got in line right next to me.
Ooh.
I mean, literally, I could reach out and touch him. And to this day, he's the largest human being in real life I've ever seen.
Wow. Well, when I was a kid growing up here in Lansing, Michigan, the big name in high school basketball was this kid named Irvin Magic Johnson. This guy was in fact, it was our local sports guy, Tim Stout, that gave him that nickname Magic. And then, of course, he, went, the next block over and went to Michigan State University and won a national championship there. But we had a few of them, the big names. Sam and Jay Vincent came out of here, and a few others that have gone on to. John Smoltz, baseball player, he came out of here.
Oh, yeah.
So where you are there, Michael, do you get to see any wild bluebonnets?
That's actually further. We're in East Texas, Northeast Texas. The bluebonnets are a little further west of here, and although I've seen them planted alongside the road, but they're more west. We have wildflowers, basically. In fact, there's a annual wildflower trails weekend, or actually an official wildflowers trail route that starts a few miles from here in Hugh Springs and goes all the way to a little tiny town called Avenger, and that's every spring. And we don't have a lot of bluebells. It's more Austin toward that direction.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, those. Steven's a big fan of those. those bluebells. All right, we're talking with author Michael Scott Clifton, and we are going to run an ad, and when we get back, we will take a call.
Yeah.
Dave Hooker here, longtime Tennessee sports writer, and I know that true Tennessee fans are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the legendary 1998 Tennessee Volunteers championship season. Tell you what, you celebrate 98, I try to bring the full-color photos and detail the transfer of power from Peyton Manning to Al Wilson, the preparation to win the first BCS National Championship, the locker room dynamics, and the challenges of a team rising above deep tragedy. Key plays include interception, a fumble maybe against Arkansas, and a bit of trickeration. Also, there's that Florida game. I analyze the leadership, the strategies, and the players' commitment to each other, and share what we are still learning from this team even today. Discover what happened to those heroes of the gridiron and where they are now. Proudly published by the Fresh Ink Group, Celebrate 98 is available in all the digital forms, but you can also get your own softcover or jacketed hardcover keepsake edition from booksellers worldwide. Want an autographed edition? Go to offthehooksports.com. That's offthehooksports.com, and I'll personalize it for you. Celebrate 98 is a collector's item and a cherished gift that belongs to all fans of college football and the Tennessee Volunteers.
It's out now. Go grab your copy. All right, so we are going to go to the phone lines here, and this would be one of our regular callers, Dr. Helen. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
How you doing tonight?
Okay, I found out that the sound was poor for me, and it turns out something wrong with my right ear, so I have to use my left ear. Now I'll talk to you. I want to find out from your writer there, who's very varied and prolific, as you know, what is his process? I put up an ad for you. What is your writing process, your creative process?
Pantser, outliner, chanter, incense burner.
Yeah.
So what is my process?
Yeah. How
do you plan a great deal, or do you go by the seat of your pants?
I am a definite pantser and not a planner, and I've tried to do the planner routine where you outline the chapters and you go ahead and create your story arc, and and you have all of it arranged like dominoes or ducks in a row or something like that, and it just doesn't work for me. And the reason why it doesn't work for me is because as a pantser, as I go along, what I discovered was even though I had a general idea of the story, the characters, the beginning, the ending, all of that, it was very fluid, and if I thought of something that I believed would add to the story, make it better, by being a pantser, it gives me more flexibility to do that. And I know a lot of very, very good authors who are planners, but I do feel like one of the drawbacks to being a planner is if you go to all that trouble to outline and basically have everything laid out like a blueprint, and you just go through and you're connecting the dots and that sort of thing. If you get hit with an inspiration on a character, maybe a sort of a plot twist, you really are kind of locked into your story and you don't have the flexibility to change it. And you do as a pantser. And so when I start writing a story, like I said, I have a general idea of the beginning and the ending, and I have a general idea of the characters. But everything else is up in the air and fluid, and that's how I write. And it's not chaotic. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's chaotic, that it's that there's not a method to the madness, so to speak. But I like to be able to have the flexibility to add, subtract, or tweak the story as I'm going along. which I feel like fits the way I write, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we outliners do that too.
Yeah, I prefer that kind of writing. Yeah. So I look forward to reading some of your books.
All right.
Thank you.
I put up an ad for you there.
Yeah.
So all
right.
Thank you for that.
All right. Well, Dr. Helen, just a reminder, now that I have you on the phone, the next 2 weeks we're not going to be live. They're going to be reruns. So we live again until 3 weeks from tonight. So just remember, the next 2 weeks we're not going to be here.
Okay.
All right, and thanks for calling in, Dr. Helen.
Okay. Nice to talk to you guys, and good luck to the writer.
All
Thank you.
Now, anybody else, if you want to call in, the phone number is 516-453-9902. Call in with comments or questions, or, just hurl accusations, whatever you feel like doing.
Yeah. Just don't throw punches.
Yeah. So
right.
last time you were on, Michael, we talked about books you've already had out, plus tonight we've got a new one to talk about. So we're going to go ahead and play a commercial and then start to get into your books.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, young adults. I'm author Ellie Collins. Check out my first 3 novels from my mythology series where Greek goddesses help us teens resolve problems from bullying to relationships. Now in print, digital, or audiobooks, with music and sound effects. Book 1 is Daisy Bold and Beautiful.
After a moment or two of silence, laughter filled the room, and students quickly began comparing notes on who had read the directions and who had fallen for the trick. DJ shared a smile with Hudson, as they both belonged to the Figured It Out group.
Book 2 is Miley in the Mirror.
Sam shot a cocky grin in Miley's direction. She didn't want him getting the idea she was fangirling on him or anything, and run the risk of future game invitations, so she attempted to immediately dispel any potential misunderstandings.
Mad Max and Sweet Sarah is the new 3rd book.
Now Max was either being shipped off on a plane tonight or getting pummeled after work tomorrow. Assuming Maxie was still in Washington tomorrow, she could warn him about the ambush, but that would probably just lead to more violence. She'd have to find another way to prevent the showdown.
Go to freshinkgroup.com or your favorite retailer to learn more and order now.
All right, book 3. That's Ethan Drew, who is currently starring in Camp Hideaway. We have another caller. You guys want to take another call?
Yeah.
All right. Come on. Yeah, there we go. Hello, caller. You're on the air. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Robert McKenzie in Houston, home of the Bluebonnet Bowl.
There you go. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Thanks for having me. Hey, I'm interested in your author's new book. Michael, you live in Mount Pleasant?
Yes, sir.
I looked up, you had a YouTube, I guess, a day or so ago. I checked it out. I was going to call into the show and whoever it was tonight, but sounds interesting. Could you tell me about your book, how you got the name for it, and how you did the artwork? Who did that, or did you do that, or that's pretty far out?
Well, as far as the name goes, I've had this book in mind, in my head for the last 6, 7, 8 years. I liked the name Pringle, but I needed another name to go with it. So Prawn's what I came up with, because Pringle is a fairy, and prawn is another word for shrimp. Shrimp, of course, implies small, which is what a fairy is. And so Pringle prawn is a 6-inch by fairy or forest prawn. And the idea of the story, when I was talking to the lady, the lady before, had a general idea of the story, had a general idea of the characters and the ending. But the fantasy I write, I like to sometimes incorporate contemporary elements to fantasy, so that people who have not read fantasy before can immediately relate to the story or to the setting or even to the characters. For example, National Treasure, The Goonies, Indiana Jones, all the Indiana Jones movies. They're all examples of contemporary movies that have movies that have contemporary settings and contemporary characters, but there's a magical object that is what causes the twists and turns of the plot. Well, in Pringle's Home, it's a fairy, and the main character is dropped into her world by a. Don't want to give away too much of the story, but he buys this old mansion. Think Munsters on 1313 Mockingbird Lane kind of mansion.
Not Dallas Mockingbird Lane, the Munsters Mockingbird Lane.
The Munsters, yeah. And and he practically gives it. They're so desperate to sell it, they practically give it away to him. But it has an old, gigantic, enormous, ancient grandfather clock. And he gets the bright idea, the main character, to sell the clock because he thinks they may be worth some money, but in order to sell the clock, he has to sort of clean it up and fix it up first, and he doesn't have the key to it. And he doesn't want to force the lock open to get the weights and the pendulum started again. So he has to go to an antique store run by a very unique, eccentric character called Hank Harper, who's a character in a couple of my other standalone novels, who gives him a key, like just to imagine an old skeleton key. And he uses it to unlock the clock, but it's a magical key, and when he steps into the clock, he discovers there's a set of descending stairs. Instead of the pendulum and the weights, he sees these stairs. Curiosity gets the better of him. He enters the clock. It drops him into a magical world. He meets Pringle, and she saves his life and returns him to his world, but he follows him back. And therein starts the story of imagine a fish out of water, a fairy out of water. It really disrupts his life. It's very funny the way she does the things, but it's also got a love story, a romancer, because one of the implications of leaving her world and going to his is that she starts to grow larger and larger and larger. And as she does, her feelings for Ben start to grow as her size does.
Cool.
But
and one thing I like is that somebody has finally come up with what I consider to be the ultimate, most scumbag down by the worst possible villain that you can come up with, president of the local HOA.
Homeowners Association?
Homeowners Association. Oh. I'm surprised there's not been a whole series of vengeful HOA presidents who go out and wreak havoc on neighborhoods.
A lot of those people.
Robert, you had asked about his cover art?
Yeah, did you do that? Who did that? What can you say about that? It's pretty
gorgeous.
Amazing.
The cover art is actually done by a cover artist called Evelyn Paniez, Paniez, and she lives in Belgium, in Europe, and she has a business where she does original art, original covers. Her business is called Secret Deter. Of course, is Belgium German? I'm trying to remember.
Belgium, they do.
It's a mix.
Flemish,
it's French, it's German. Whoever took them over last.
Yeah.
Half the country speaks Flemish, the other half speaks French.
So her company or her business is I don't know that I can pronounce it right. It's Secret d'Artiste Digital Art. Secret d'Artiste Digital Art, and Evelyn's done 4 of my book covers. And I like to use cover artists that do original art on covers instead of canned images and things like that. And so I worked with her, gave a synopsis, and she gave me some examples of some of her thoughts and stuff, and we kind of went back and forth. I wanted a fairy that looked like a fairy, didn't want one with butterfly wings. I wanted one with wings that looked like it was on a bee, and I wanted one that had kind of a mischievous but happy look to them. Someone, that you just never know what their next move's going to be. And I think we hit a home run on that. She basically captured the image exactly the way I wanted it. And I don't know if you can see on the cover, but she's actually sitting on the minute hand of the clock.
Okay.
I'll go back and check it out.
Yeah. Very nice cover.
Well, good luck with it. I think it'll be fabulous. And Beam and Stephen, thanks for having me on the show. I'm glad I cracked the top 25 Fresh Ink group. This has never before happened.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if there's access to that type of a list or that's just verbalized. But my favorite song of Peter Gabriel is Red Rain.
Oh, that one too.
Most memorable because he sounds like he's going to die at the end of it, but he just keeps going on with the voice. I love that. And I like Shock the Monkey and all the other tunes you guys mentioned.
Digging in the
dirt.
But
I saw Genesis just like Stephen mentioned many times, and I went to a Steve Hackett concert once in Santa Monica, and there was an after party, and he was there. He's one of the great guitarists of all time, but he followed me on Twitter for a while, but one of my accounts got banned, so I have not linked back up with him. But he's that whole Genesis, everybody that was in that, of course, Phil Collins, all these guys were just. It was a super band. I mean, it's incredible music history there. So enjoy the
he's
concert.
on tour right now, Robert.
Yeah,
Steve Hackett's on tour right now. He's doing Genesis Revisited, early Genesis album.
I think he comes to Houston in late October, but I'll double check.
Yeah, my tickets are in Nashville.
Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
It's not going to be at Opryland, is it?
It's actually at the Ryman Auditorium.
Oh, there you go. That'll be phenomenal.
Sit on the hard benches.
Yeah. Well, listen, good luck with the book, and thanks a lot.
Thanks for calling in, Robert.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Robert.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Let's learn about that submariner.
Yeah, we are talking to author Michael Scott Clifton, and we will be right back.
Submariner, 30 years of hijinks in keeping the fleet afloat. Jerry Pate's semi-autobiographical collection of 60 stories recounts his 30 years in and around the U.S. Navy submarine fleet, ranging from lighthearted to wrenching. All are poignant inside looks at naval operations rarely seen by outsiders. Topics include the real story behind the shuttle Challenger tragedy, risking his own life underwater, discovering a Soviet spy living across the street, surviving when an engine ignites, critical missions, and the everyday lives of men and women of the fleet. Compiled by author Robert G. Williscroft and proudly published by Fresh Ink Group. Submariner is available worldwide in hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats. Dive into Submariner for hijinks and breathtaking adventure with this poignant memoir by a true American hero.
Get your copy now.
Fantastic read, so go grab a copy. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. We're talking
now,
to author Michael Scott Clifton.
Yeah, we have a comment here on Twitter from Robert G. Williscroft. He says, an outliner can easily add and subtract or modify. I do it all the time with 17 books. I do it too. I prefer outlining, and if I need to go in there and switch stuff around, I can do that. And
to me, that's the argument for outlining, is I can I can make adjustments in my plot and move things through and go back and set things up prior to that in order to make things all come out together, and make those changes in my outline without having to rewrite scenes. That's the fun part about outlining. You move the little blocks around without having to do all the work.
Yeah, well, that's that's everybody's got their own style, so
yeah.
Whatever works for you.
Right. All right, so Michael Scott Clifton, tell us about your Conquest of the Veil series.
Well, I would consider that to be epic fantasy, high fantasy, sword and sorcery, and like all epic tales, it's told over four books. The first book is The Open Portal. The second book is Escape from Wheel. The third book is A Witch's Brew. And the fourth and final book is Cavern of the Veiled. And it is it starts in a contemporary setting with an 18-year-old high school girl who's been bullied to the point that she decides she's going to commit suicide. But before she can carry out the act, her guardian angel appears to her. And as you all know, guardian angels are kind of a well-worn trope. So I tried to make it a different kind of guardian angel. And if you've ever seen the movie Arthur with Dudley Moore, and if you
not the
remember
Russell Brand one,
and you remember the character Hobbs, the butler, who was very rude and condescending.
I'll alert the media.
I'll alert the media, yeah.
That's who I kind of modeled her guardian angel after. Anyway, she decides to take him up in his offer, thinking, hey, anything's better than my life is now. And so when she wakes up the next day, she discovers she's on a parallel world of Earth where technology has been replaced by magic, and best of all, she's transformed from a plain-looking young lady to a stunningly beautiful woman with servants and riches. And so she thinks every wild dream she's ever had has come to pass until she discovers that her guardian angel didn't tell her the entire story, because on this world is a magical barrier called the Veil, which divides the world into a good side and an evil side, and she's on the wrong side. And of course, it also has a kind of a developing love story. Another main character, the other main character, is a prince, but of course, like the butler, he's not your everyday prince. He's hot-headed, gets himself into trouble a lot, and in fact, to the point he's banished to the most remote province in the entire kingdom, because they feel like that's the only place he won't get into trouble. And from there, somehow he manages to get through the veil and discovers a way, and he hooks up with the girl who is is actually a different person inhabiting the body of a different, another character, and they're like a jigsaw puzzle. They're both fractured personalities, but somehow together complete a whole. And of course, that's part of the story as well. But it's got a lot of battle scenes, mystical creatures. I've sold a lot of the Conquest of the Veil series, a lot, and it's been a very popular series for me since I finished it. I didn't mean to give away the story of Pringle Prawn. I didn't know whether y'all wanted me to answer the gentleman's call-in question or not, or wait until for y'all to ask a little more questions about it. So if I jumped the gun, I apologize on that.
No. That's fine. On this show, when the callers come in, we'll let them dictate, pace in the direction. That's fine.
Sure.
Now, the series is, I'm seeing Kindles and paperbacks. Are there any of those available in audiobook?
Open Portal is an audiobook, and eventually all three of the books will be audiobooks as well. I just finished the last book in the series last summer, and I've been working on Pringle Prawn ever since. So it's kind of one of those deals where I meant to start converting the others into audiobooks, and I'll probably start doing that in the next month or so. But yeah, they'll all be audiobooks eventually.
Oh.
But for now, the first book in the series, The Open Portal, is an audiobook. Got a great narrator as well.
You have an audio book as well as paperback and Kindle for Edison Jones and the Anti-Grav Elevator. I'm very curious about that. What's that on?
So are y'all familiar with a book series that has now been out of print for a long, long time called Tom Swift?
I remember that.
It was published by the same company, I think Doubleday, that did the Hardy Boys series. So Tom Swift was a young inventor who invented cool things and went on cool adventures. And when I was a kid growing up, I read every one of those books, just loved them. And it was about science, but it was also about adventure and, friendships and all the sort of things, that you would expect with books in a series like that. But it's been out of print for many, many years. So my 21st century version of Tom Swift is Edison Jones. He's a 12-year-old seventh grader. He's also a genius, a savant, a genius inventor. But he also is paraplegic. He's paralyzed from the waist down from a car accident that killed his parents. But he's used his mind and his inventions to not only overcome his disabilities, but to pretty much lead the same kind of life he would have led with or without use of his legs. So, and the other aspect of Edison Jones, and I won, as you read out before in the introductions, I was very proud because I've won a national Feathered Quill Award. I've won regional awards on some of my other books, but I won a national Feathered Quill Award for Edison Jones. And I think part of the reason was because, first of all, I think it's a very well-written book and the character is a well-defined character, but also because besides just the science, besides just the adventure, I taught, as you well know, public school for many years. I was a junior high principal. I know the age group very, very well. And so part of the story also is Edison fitting in with other seventh grade girls and boys, because you see his grandfather in the book is a billionaire who has kept Edison pretty much sheltered since the death of his parents. He's only had tutors and the best teachers money could buy, private teachers, until he reaches his 12th birthday when his grandfather belatedly realizes that Edison doesn't know a single kid his own age. So he decides to enroll him in a public school for the first time at age 12 in the 7th grade. So Edison finds that the inventions are easy. Fitting in with other girls and boys his age is the hardest thing he's ever done in his life. And it's the science in it is even though it's a work of fiction, the science in it is either real or it is real theoretical science. It's not gobbledygook. So I'm kind of proud of that as well.
Is the target readers young adult?
It is. Oddly enough, I've gone to a bunch of book shows, a lot of Comic Cons, and they end up selling more of the books to adults than I actually do to kids. But that's okay.
Yeah, sounds like the kind of story I would read. Sounds great.
Yeah.
All right, so what's the Treasure Hunt Club?
That was my first book to write, and it's probably one of the best stories I've written so far. If you can imagine someone we've all met at least once in our life, or maybe we know people more than one, a person whose luck only runs one way, it's all bad all the time.
Schlep rock.
And part of it's their fault because this particular character is always looking for shortcuts through life that never work out. So consequently, he can't hold a job or keep a relationship. Until one day when he finds this magical book called the Book of Lost Treasures, which can find anything that has ever been lost. So if you can imagine the kind of character I described, okay, what would that character do with a book that can find anything that has ever been lost? And that's the story of the Treasure Hunt Club.
Wow. Where did the idea for this come from?
Well, my wife used to force me to watch Antiques Roadshow.
I love that show.
Well, I didn't start off that way, but, I kind of started liking it. In fact, to the point where whenever the new episodes come on now, we watch it. So I kind of got this idea in my head, okay, well, these people, they find these hidden treasures that they didn't even know were hidden treasures, that are sometimes worth as much as $1 million.
Yeah.
And what would, if someone had a magical book that could find objects like that so they could recover them and sell them, use the book like a treasure map, just imagine how rich they could get. But the other part of that is, if you've ever read the personal stories or narratives of people who have won multi-million-dollar lotteries, people who have gone from very humble means to overnight millionaires, the end story there is often not a good one.
Yeah.
And so the Treasure Hunt Club is an adventure. Like I said, it's kind of like a National Treasure meets Goonies meets Indiana Jones kind of vibe. And it's also very much a be careful what you ask for story.
So you also have a paranormal romance thriller. Tell us about that.
The Janus Witch. Yeah.
The Janus Witch.
The Janus Witch is a story that has actually 3 story threads that intersect, and it's probably the most graphic novel I've written, because it's about a violent coven of witches that do violent things. It starts out in a medieval setting with this vicious coven of witches, which are set upon one day by a group of witch hunters who are out to kill them all. And the witches try to escape by creating portals of magic. But before they can finish the spell, one of the witches is killed, the portal spins out of control, and the remaining witches have the unenviable choices of either staying and facing certain death or taking their chances on the out-of-control portal. And so obviously that's what they do, and it slingshots them through time, kind of a time leap novel through to present-day East Texas. And it leaves the main character, one of the main characters of the witches, so completely critically injured in the passage that she suffers from complete amnesia and doesn't know that she is or ever was a witch. And when she recovers, she meets a young man whose character and personality are her exact opposite. He's kind and compassionate. He falls in love with him, and everything seems to be rocking along really good until other events start to unfold, which include flashbacks to her previous life, but it also, the worst witch, the most vicious, evil witch, is the coven leader. She survives the passage, and now she's looking for the witch that no longer knows that she's a witch. And on top of that, the hatred the witch hunters hold for the witches runs so deeply that they risk their lives to follow them through the out-of-control portal. And they also survive, and now they're back on the hunt again. So you've got 3 different stories going that at some point will intersect between the witch hunters, the coven leader, and the witch that no longer knows that she's a witch. And so it's kind of a nature and nurture thing. If you take a murderous witch, remove her memory, have her meet a young man who's kind and compassionate, she falls in love with him, what happens from that point forward? Does she go back to being her evil witch self? Does she transform into a good person? And when you add the other elements of the other witch and the coven leader and the hunters into that, then you have a really rocking story. It's a pretty fast-moving story.
Sounds like it. And that one's also available on audiobook, right?
Treasure Hunt Club, Edison Jones, the Jana Switch, and the Open Portal are all audio.
All right, cool. All right, we're going to play another commercial here and wrap up talking with Michael Scott Clifton.
In the days leading up to her departure on the yacht at the Dayang, Catherine Howell had a sixth sense revelation that the U.S. government would attempt to take her out before she could return to the United States. Thus begins a web of intrigue involving the CIA, the military, the alleged stillborn birth of her infant son, and the loss of her husband in Vietnam. But is he truly dead? Catherine's sixth sense tells her the man is still alive, and they very nearly cross paths. Catherine's story should be told with caution, as one never knows which government agency is listening to your phone calls, reading your mail, or following you wherever you go. How did Catherine end up living on a yacht with a CIA agent? Will she ever discover the truth? Grab your copy of The Dayang, Book 1 of the Dayang Trilogy by M.C. Howell, in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats worldwide. The Dayang by M.C. Howell.
All right, we're talking to Michael Scott Clifton, author extraordinaire. So, Michael, you just launched Pringle Prawn a couple of days ago. This is a brand new release. Did you have any kind of an event or anything to celebrate that release?
We had a book launch yesterday. C.J. Peterson joined me along with four different authors: Stone Key, Eric Staples, Jeffrey Lee, Michael Wickington. I think that's it. And they're all, associated with most of those. Basically all of the authors, fellow science fiction, fantasy authors. And we had the book launch yesterday. So both the ebook and paperback went live yesterday and the night, same time as the book launch.
So what did the book launch look like? I mean, did you rent a hall? Thousands attended? Hell's Angels provided security?
No, nothing so grand. It was an online book launch, and advertised it pretty good on social media. And then we were giving away each of the authors was giving away a signed copy or an ebook of their, of one of their books, and there was a digital spin the wheel, with the names of the people who were entered, and just like Wheel of Fortune, when it hit the name, they would win, a book from me or from one of the other authors. So it's pretty neat, and unlike calling in like now, what they would do is they would just, they would make comments which would appear, and you could answer the comments, orally, like we are now. But they would send their questions and comments, via text and stuff like that on the launch site. So CJ did that for me, and so CJ is like that. She's just awesome, and I really appreciate her helping me with that book launch, because if I had to have done all the digital work on there, it would have never happened.
Now, tell us a little bit about this critique group.
Okay, so I belong to a critique group, and I believe there's lots of authors that are part of online critique groups or face-to-face critique groups, or some combination of the above. So we meet once a week at 9:30 at a coffee shop in Mount Pleasant called Joe. We also meet, it's also a Zoom meeting, so that if you don't live in and around the Mount Pleasant area, or even if you do, if you can't make the meeting, you can Zoom in to the critique session. And the way we do our critiques is, if we're working on a story, on a manuscript, we will submit a chapter or two the previous week, and then we have a week to look it over. This is all the other members of the critique group, and to do our critique on it. Sometimes it's nothing more than simple editing, and sometimes it is suggestions on changing up a sentence or a word, phrase, or it could be something like deleting. Oftentimes, more often than not, it's helping to make a sentence more powerful by removing the shrubbery, if you understand what I'm saying. So that's how we do it. We submit the week before we have something, and then we sit down and we talk it. Now, when you have to be kind of expeditious about that, because you can't talk at length about one particular thing or you'll be there till midnight. So we've kind of gotten into a what we know now. We're familiar with each other. We're comfortable with each other on terms of how we critique and how fast we move. And so generally we meet for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and we're finished. And then we go on, and sometime during the week prior, then another chapter or two, and the process starts over again on the next Tuesday, the following Tuesday. And of course we have some. I'm very fortunate because I have there are 6 or 7 members of our critique group. All of them are published authors and experienced authors. One of them is C.I. Chevron, who is a steampunk author. Another one is Stone Key, who writes paranormal and urban fantasy. Kemper York writes crime thrillers. Skip Hughes writes poetry. He's also a retired college professor. Galen Knuckles writes historical fiction. Vicki Phelps writes short stories, and James Rasco is a fantasy writer. And sometimes we have people that come and go. It's kind of fluid, if you know what I'm saying. So we might have people that join on for a while until they get a project finished, and then they might not come back. So those are kind of the core people in our critique group.
That sounds invaluable, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you had some opportunity to actually meet any of your fans, have any interactions with them, or get letters from them or anything like that stands out to you as very poignant or meaningful?
I do a lot of book events. Comic-Cons are kind of what I like to focus on, but I'll do a lot of smaller book events as well, wine festivals, art walks, things like that. And I often meet people that will come back that know that I'm going to be there. They'll come to my booth, and they want to know if I've written a new book, and if so, can they get it, and that sort of thing. And a lot of them come up and they give you feedback. Hey, I really liked your book, really enjoyed your book, and can't wait for the next one. And obviously, that is worth more to an author, or at least to me anyway, than any kind of monetary reward in terms of, I bought your book. Getting feedback from readers that that they enjoy what you're writing, and that they think you've done a great job is it's that kind of gold you just can't mine. And it's wonderful.
Yeah, sometimes being a writer can feel like you're just shouting at a brick wall, and you don't know if anybody's actually hearing what you're saying. So when the brick wall speaks back and got exactly what you were saying, that's pretty cool.
Yep, there is.
So, Michael, how can, speaking of fans, how can fans and people who just want to kind of, have a word with you or whatever, or follow you on social media, how can they find you on, like, Twitter, Facebook? And where can they go to find the podcast that you and CJ do together?
So the podcast is called Book World, The Great Escape, and all of the episodes are recorded on YouTube. If you Google me at author MS Clifton, it will take you to all of my social media sites, which are Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, or X as he calls now. Probably going to have a TikTok account in the not too distant future, but right now those are the main. I have a Pinterest account too, but it doesn't do much with it. But again, if you Google at author MS Clifton, you can go to it'll take you to all the websites. In addition, I have a website, www.michaelscottclifton.com, and it has pretty much everything that you would need to know in terms of about me, about the books, how you get the books, that sort of thing. I will say I am exclusive to Amazon, okay? I'm not going to be on Books A Million or Barnes & Noble, Ingram Spark. I decided a long time ago that it just made better sense to go with Amazon, since 80 to 90% of all book traffic goes through there. So you can find me on Amazon by simply Googling author Michael Scott Clifton, or just entering that into the search bar, and it will take you to all my books, including the newest one, Pringle Prawn.
Yeah, and with Amazon, of course, anytime you're looking at a book, you can usually click on the author's name adjacent to the book, and then it'll take you to the author's page and all the author's books, which is what I did earlier when I was looking at our guest books. So it's been great having you on, Michael Scott Clifton, and congratulations on the release of Pringle Prawn this week. We're glad to hear that that's roaring out of the gate already, and we wish you the best with that.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. So, listeners, remember, next week we're going to be doing a rerun of our episode featuring author Caleb Pirtle III, who just passed away about a month ago, and we're going to do that as a tribute to him, rerun that episode. We encourage people, anytime we lose an independent author, don't let their books die at the same time. Get out there and keep supporting them, and keep buying those books and spreading the word, and keep them around for a long time.
Yeah, and then the week after that is going to be another rerun. So the next two episodes are going to be reruns, as we are going to be busy going and seeing Peter Gabriel and whatnot. Carlisle Toms, he was here some months ago, and he's an interesting chap. So tune in for that one. It's a rerun, but it's if you missed it or if you want to hear it again, just tune in and have a good time with it. And after that, we're going to have independent musicians Wide Track on again. That's Ron Tippin and his son Zach Tippin and whoever they decide to play with on any given occasion. That's the Wide Track Band. They've got a new album out. We're going to check out some of their music, talk about what they've been up to, and we're looking forward to getting up there and meeting them and hanging out with them a little bit in the next week or two. Eh, Beam? Yeah, I think that's going to be next week, and we may shoot some videos of their rehearsals and share that stuff online, so keep an eye out for that. And after Wide Track, we're going to have a couple of guys we're not familiar with, Bryce and KCT Allen. These guys are graphic novels and comic books. They're creators, and so it's going to be a kind of an interesting meet up with them. We're going to meet them as you are meeting them, so tune in for that.
And after that, we've got Zeta Alfaro. She is a writer and a musician. She has a book out, a novel, and she has an album out of original music. So that's Zeta Alfaro. We're going to talk about merging and existing between the book world and the music world.
And after that, we've got a hooker for a guest, Dave Hooker from Off the Hook Sports, and his new book is out and doing quite well, Celebrate 98. So tune in for that. And find out all about how that book came about.
Yep. And as always, people, thanks for calling in. Thanks for posting on Twitter. Thanks for spreading the word, subscribing. And like I say, if you happen to be over there on YouTube at the Fresh Ink Group channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button there as well. So thanks again, Michael Scott Clifton. We appreciate having you on the show today. It's always a pleasure.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And then, by the way, Pringle Prawn, I did dedicate the book to Caleb. Got a great dedication to him.
Oh,
fantastic.
Terrific. Good. I'm glad you mentioned that. All right. Well, we'll see everybody in 3 weeks. Do check out those reruns.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Family secrets can be deadly. When Lisa visits her parents one fateful Saturday morning, she hugs her father and takes her suitcase to her childhood bedroom. The doorbell rings. And 1 minute later, her father lies dead on the floor. 3 bullets to the chest. The death of Eric Holmes sends shockwaves throughout the quiet neighborhood. But for the Holmes family, it's devastating. In this fast-paced psychological thriller, Lisa and her brother embark on a quest to solve the mystery of their father's murder. The journey takes them into a secret world where nothing is as it seems. Once the puzzle pieces begin to coalesce, they realize that their father had multiple lives. As the facts unravel, the siblings discover the true meaning of redemption. Gwen M. Plano's Redemption is available worldwide in softcover, jacketed hardcover, and all ebook formats. Published proudly by Fresh Ink Group. Redemption by Gwen M. Plano.
You've been a part of Voice of Indy, a production of Fresh Ink Group. Spread the word, support our guests, then find us at FreshInkGroup.com and be sure to hashtag Fresh Ink Group.